strict. How strict do you need to be elite? How strict did you need to be at your best, Gemma?
I never felt like it was strict. I think that was what the difference was. I didn't feel like anything was forced. It was like a lot of it was choice.
It was
And
very strict, Gemma. Very strict.
was it? Why would you think that?
For those who are listening and who are not watching, I'm trying to wind Gemma up. That's not fair. We'll start again. We're not starting again, but I mean, we'll start again with the question. I think you're right. It's the view of it, isn't it? It's what what people might think you have to be.
Yeah, what people think you might have to do, or how it's viewed, and then I think knowing what actually you need to do. 'Cause sometimes you could be doing a lot of things that are not necessary, and feel like it's helping you, and it also feel not. Those things can feel natural too. You could be just that type of personality who wants everything to be a certain way, and that level of control can feel like something that's really helping you.
Isn't it interesting? You think about the word control, strict, discipline. There's these things that feed into certain versions of what people think is needed, or that's the way it has to be. And I think it's worth probably sharing why we're having this conversation, and some of the athletes that we work with, the people that we work with, having a certain view of what they need. So it is more detail, more analysis. It is becoming way more specific, and that's what they need to do in order to find those extra percentages to perform better. But in reality, it's actually understanding what helps them to perform and what helps them to prepare and recover. And it's amazing how you can be misled, or sometimes not misled, actually led a certain direction to believing that that's what you have to do.
Yeah, because they're more measurable than like that measure. The fact that you can see that when I'm doing this amount of things, and the effort of doing those things also feels like I'm making progress because I'm working so hard and I'm doing all these, like whether it's protocols or adding all these additional things to your day, that feels like you should be getting better results by doing it. And then looking and feeling disciplined is also a bit of a reward as well. So you can get caught in that trap of just trying to create that control where, but not actually being able to deal with the unpredictability of sport and life, because you feel like you're just trying to trap everything into this kind of contained way of living. And when that goes off track and you don't have, you don't feel confident in what you're doing, then you're not really building up the skills to actually allow yourself to have a bit of peace and freedom that would actually allow you to perform better.
I feel like there's such a consistent pattern in a lot of what we talk about. They're in slightly different areas, but they're all connected to the same thing. And it's this ability for people to understand what they need to do so that they can do it consistently and then perform with freedom or live with freedom, so that you're not overthinking, that there's a confidence that's constantly building, and that you're able to put the energy in the areas that are of most value to you. And it depends how much work you've done in clarifying that. Also, it also depends on how far in a direction that you've gone with certain behaviors. So it can take a bit of coming back from that analysis and that real detail orientated focus. So the best practical examples maybe that I can share is where athletes are weighing themselves maybe frequently throughout the course of the week, and then they associate a number with where they're at right now and what the perfect number looks like for them. Or if they're looking from a hydration perspective to have a perfect clear color through your urine throughout the course of the day, or they're tracking all of their calories, or maybe they're weighing their foods, or maybe they're like I remember getting to a point with with an athlete, an absolutely phenomenal young athlete, who begin to talk about vegetables like, this is a true story. They begin to talk about broccoli and vegetables like it had some sort of magic formula, that there was some healing power that these vegetables had, and that there was, you know, you had to have this volume of vegetables so that you could be pure. This is true. Like, this is somebody that's operated at the highest level. And when they got to that level, they were doing all of that consistently, and they were dialed in on their exact foods and carbohydrate targets and protein targets and taking their supplements. It was the search for something new. It was this constant search for something new. And I remember, and I've talked about this, this was a mistake that I made, but I found this cream. It was a buffer cream. Now, anybody listening, please don't look for the cream. I mean, I'm just telling the story as an example. But I gave them, because they kept saying, there must be something, Daniel, there must be something. And I gave them this buffer cream. And the idea was that this cream could be absorbed through the skin and act as a buffer for lactic acid. And they got so in on the cream that they felt that they couldn't train without it, they couldn't play without it. And so much so that they were like, this is the stuff that every athlete should be consuming. But I mean, it was complete placebo. And I went too far that I couldn't say, I just gave you that cream so that you could have something that you felt would give you the edge. Mm. But it just shows you how far athletes can go in the wrong direction by, and then where is that focus? Where, if you would place the focus in a different space, it could be an extra 15 minutes of getting quality sleep in the evening that will actually make a tangible difference to your recovery.
Yeah, I think that's a good stress test of like if it's how far it's gone in the wrong direction. If you feel like you can't perform without doing whatever, like it could be the cream, but it could be any behavior. Like if you feel like you don't have control when that's not in place, then you're not you're not in a place where you're really putting the emphasis on like what matters and what allows you to perform. Because I think like I know what it feels like to be trapped in a set of behaviors, feeling like I need to do these things in order for me to show up my best. But I feel like having gone through that to now feeling like these are really positive things to add to my day, but I could also have a really good day and not have to do a million and one things. I could still perform. I know I have the set of skills and that would allow me to perform without feeling like I need to go for the walk in the morning. Like it's great if I get my walk in the morning, but I'm not going to have an awful day if I don't, or even if I don't have a great night's sleep, I'm still going to be able to have a good day. I'm not going to let that control how I show up and just put the blame on feeling tired, or there has to be a place where you have a bit of freedom and not feel controlled by, the perfect day.
What's the journey you think somebody has to go on to get to that point?
Just a deeper look at what you're doing. I think you can get caught in following a plan and not actually looking at, because you can get a lot of positive outcomes from following a list of things. So like there is a result from weighing your food. There is, you can measure, you can feel in control. You could also get the result of, if it was a body composition goal, you can get that result over time. Um, and then there are positive feedbacks that you get from a lot of these actions. Like I feel when you go for the walk in the morning, there's the positive feeling, but then you can get caught in that trap and feeling like these are the things I have to do to feel this way. But then and never get to a point of doing a proper review where you can like actually strip those things back. Oh, what actually is it? Well, it's actually because I'm eating this way or I'm getting some fresh air. It doesn't have to be as in a strict way of doing it. So I think you can practice a certain way of living and then take a step back and be able to review this is why this is happening, as opposed to the
We
times
have
and
this
the
framework,
heat.
Gemma. We have this framework around the mindset pillar with control, influence, and interference. And one of the things as we're putting that program together that you realize how many things, how important like that part of the framework is in becoming clear about the important variables within it. But one of the things that is relevant to this conversation, and particularly relevant based on some of the conversations I have with athletes and you have as well, is the role of your environment, the role of your teammates, the role of coaches, managers, and certain things that they can say. And they're people in positions of power. How do you think that athletes can deal with that? Yeah, based on what we are talking about. How can people troubleshoot whether body composition, tracking calories, weighing food, certain behaviors, like how do you think an athlete can manage that when sometimes they're being led a certain way, as we said earlier in the conversation?
Like other people are controlling what the measures should be.
Yes, or trying to influence.
I suppose looking at what the goal is for you personally, and then being able to evaluate where you are and what you would actually need to go. Like are the things that is holding you back the most?
Mm.
Because a coach might have really good intentions for the overall group and what they might, what the group might need to focus on, but everybody at an individual level will have different bigger markers that they probably need to execute, one step at a time, and identifying what the biggest roadblock is for you to, like, it could be um, being able to build up confidence on the pitch or handling pressure. For someone else, it might be, yeah, they do need to go after a better effective gym program, and training quality. And someone else might need to really focus on improving their nutrition because they're simply skipping meals. But there's no like one. Everybody just needs to focus on this one thing. I think that's where some of those messages can get really lost when it's just not individualized. And the coach said we all need to focus on body composition, so let's everybody go after this. When for some people that may not be, they may need to go through in a completely different way and deal with kind of the. This is why we focus on the individual pillars for a person at the very start to identify like what's holding them back the most.
I often think about the number of athletes in my experience who just performed the most extraordinary levels, and their body composition would be quite far down their priority list as an athlete, but they're doing so many other aspects right in terms of their preparation and getting themselves in the right frame of mind, and how well they're recovering or load managing. I think the message I would love, particularly for younger athletes, is to develop a process of reflection. And I'm, I, when I say reflection, just becoming a little bit more clear in how they feel they operate at their best, and building that sense of self belief, and self clarity. And there's there's a real management in kind of processing feedback and trust of information. And I, I, I think one of the messages that I'm delivering to, based on experience, of course, is how clear the top performers were about what was best for them. Now, they built that through their own evidence and their own reflection, and they built it through trusting the right people and the right information. And it's a very, very, very powerful and positive place to get to, where there's understanding of all of these things that allow you to be at your best. And I think even within the body composition one, and the reason we're talking about the body composition one is like it's a tangible one, but you can perform at really high levels and not be at your best physically. Like you can. And there's an acceptance that, yes, this is an area I can work on, but there's a time to work on it. And by putting too much pressure on it, or restricting of calories, or not eating enough carbohydrate, or these simpler, really important things that allow you to have the energy to perform, that will compromise you for your performance. So, I think we started the conversation around how strict you need to be. And we first need to go after the word strict and what it represents, because both you and I know that it's freedom, and it's been clear on behaviors, the ones that help and the ones that hinder. It's becomes about a decision making process, not I need to be strict, I need to live like this. You just live this way because it provides you with the energy to perform. It provides you with the freedom to perform. It provides you with a set of decisions and actions that allow you to express your best performance. So that's not strict. That's more about knowledge of yourself and knowledge of those behaviors.
Yeah, I think if anybody was to even just go and do that, then to sit down and reflect on like their best performance, there's so much. Every time you ask that question with on a consultation, people are able to like probably say things that they've maybe never said before, or identify things that maybe on the surface level they feel this helped me to produce that performance. But then when you keep asking it, you find more, and you become more aware of like what actually is important that week on the lead up to a game, that you need to maybe look at your week, and it becomes so much more real then that, oh yeah, I actually haven't been putting on that in my week consistently. And that's how you start building up the evidence and the actual game plan of how to produce a bit more consistency.
We have just started having some of our consultations with athletes on the 90-day program. And what strikes me about the first conversations that we've had were how connected the words are that they, one of the clients, one of the athletes said, confidence, leadership, and leading by action and leading by example. And that they're within performance, that there's a calmness, but also a really strong presence. And then linking that to recovery, daily actions, and then demonstrating great behaviors in terms of preparation and how they eat, how they fuel, how they recover, and how all of these are directly linked back to the vision. And it can be hard to see how simple some of these things are, but one very tiny example was within the environment that this athlete is training and performing in. The food doesn't always work well that is provided. So one of the key actions was preparing more of his own food. And I asked him, I went into it in a bit more detail, and it wasn't necessarily because it wasn't the right combinations of foods. It was how the food was feeling. So there was some aspect of how the food was prepared that just wasn't sitting well with the athlete. And I said, that's a great reflection, because that will tell you a lot about whether that food is or isn't working. So it's just making sure that it's not that you need, I can't track that, but it's more about the experience of the food. So if you're linking back to how you want to feel energized, you want your mood to be good, you want your food to fit with that, it becomes like a very simple action that needs to be put in place in order for that to be connected back to your goal.
Mm. Yeah, I think the difficult part of it is it's nearly shifting yourself into a different way of measuring progress. Like you might not get the instant feedback, but you will get it maybe the next time if you are allowing yourself to learn about it. And then over the long term, you get a compounding effect of these little lessons, and you've completely transformed the way that you're now showing up and how you're feeling and performing. It's
Mm.
maybe an approach that takes a little bit more patience than the instant gratification of control and measuring.
Yeah. It's it's amazing when it comes down to it though, where you begin for people to give themselves more freedom and how that can feel, because it's energizing and it's exciting to think, oh geez, maybe I don't need to overanalyze this as much.
Mm.
Maybe I don't. And I think one really important caveat in all of this is and this was like how I would have finished some of my conversations. There's a real theme about them, and that it's it's not about doing more work. It's not about doing more analysis. It's not about doing more putting more in and more effort. It's actually making sure that you're doing the right work, that the work is suitable and suited to what you're ultimately trying to achieve. So what I mean by that is you still need to know what your nutrition goals are, and you still need to know what your overall goal is from a performance perspective, and you need to be very clear that you are reaching those. But then once you are, and you've got that body of work done that needs to be done, then it's not this constant over analysis. Then it doesn't have to be perfect is ultimately what I'm saying.
Yeah, at the start of the program, we have this like time audit, and it almost before you come to that, it's when you identify what actually matters and then you see how that fits into your week, it creates more freedom because you're actually just prioritizing what matters instead of a lot of the things that you might feel like, you know, you nearly have to do, and just reduces the focus and allows you to create more space in your life to focus on other things that are going to allow you to not just perform, but also have more space to do maybe other things that you weren't prioritizing.
I hope those who are listening have maybe a slightly different picture of, or maybe are beginning to ask themselves. That's probably a better way of putting it. Maybe asking yourself some different questions around what the word means. We talked before we came on this morning about how critical your language is, and begin to identify what words that you're using and what are the things that you have in your head that you feel you need versus what you actually need. They can be very different.
You need help on that. The 90-day program is now live.
It is. I said this morning to Lauren and our team, I said it's the best thing we've ever done. It's the best bit of work we've ever done, and we've done some great things. If you think about the last couple of years running marathon programs and the Empower program, different events and different phases we've gone after different things. But it's been so enjoyable putting it together, and to think about what it represents in the platform that it can give people. It's so exciting to think about the difference it can make.
Yeah. It's like finally putting the lessons together that we talk about with clients and in workshops and delivering them live. It now feels like we've finally put like it together in a way that's organized from start to finish.
What's your winning moment this week, Gemma?
I'll say finishing that program and even the meeting this morning with Casper, just feeling like, okay, now we can go live. After so
Professionally, some of the lessons that I created, there was a moment as I was creating them and I was thinking to myself, geez, I've told this story a good few times. And that story was in consultations where I was giving people, I was talking about this particular deliberate practice section, thinking, well, I actually have a tangible example here within deliberate practice that I used that I think fits this lesson. And I mean this from the context of being able to share a message and a message reaching more people. And I had that moment where I thought, wow, like this lesson, Maybe it can be recorded again and maybe it can be better, it can be refined, but this message can reach so many more people now. And it was a real feeling of imagine if people feel like I felt by getting clear on this one very small but very important element of deliberate practice and how it can have this other domino effect in other areas of their performance. That was a real winning moment. One other very quick personal win this week was I shot my best score in a game of golf, and it was the first time. I know that I'm linking outcome and experience, but it was the first time in, say, close on 6 months that I enjoyed the game. And there's been a lot of work has gone into acceptance of a lot of poor play and poor decision making. But I wanted to share this one thing that has made such a difference. And it's the concept of problem solving within the game. So committing to the idea that every shot is a problem to solve and having a very clear process around the shot being a problem to solve versus connecting every shot, because there's nothing you can do about the one behind, whether it was good or it was bad. No matter what it was, that's over. And that has made such a huge difference to how present I am when I'm playing the game. Now, there's the technical aspect that I've worked on, but there's also the mental component. And for it to come together in the sun and to be able to enjoy the game based on that work was another winning moment. And it's nice to be living the stuff that we talk about. Genuine, or is that like you just laughing at me? But you are laughing. Are you making fun of me again? Thanks, Gemma. Thanks everyone for listening.